Hello, hello, hello. Stephanie here and back again with our special series of live videos in the run up to our Rent to Rent Success book launch on Friday, the 29th of January. We're super excited about it. And I'm very excited that today we have got the uber impressive Mr. HMO himself, Mr. Jamie Madill from the Hmo Experience coming on to talk to us all about starting off with Rent to Rent and how it kickstarted his property investment career. And we'll learn more about that. And I think there will be a few surprising insights that you will learn from Jamie today. So well worth listening to. Before I dive into that, I want to explain this is the third in a series of 7 live videos. We've got some awesome people coming. We've got Jamie today. We have got Lucy Ingram from Ride Property tomorrow. We've got Andy Graham from the HMO Roadmap on Wednesday. We have got Giuseppe Leone on Thursday, and we've got Steve Curtis from Rent to Rent Live on Friday. So a real smorgasbord of fabulous Rent to Rent goodness that I know that you won't want to miss. And it's all about property heavyweights who've used Rent to Rent to rocket, and that's why it's called the Rent to Rent Rocket series. So without any further ado, let us get involved with Mr. Jamie Madill. How are you, Jamie?
I'm really good, thanks, Stephanie. It's wonderful to be here, and you are so enthusiastic. It's a pleasure to join you. So thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, well, I was just saying before we started rolling that I was on Jamie's Hmo Experience podcast. We did the recording. Was it before Christmas?
Yeah, just before Christmas.
Before Christmas, and I enjoyed it so much. To my surprise, who knew that Jamie's such a cool guy?
well, thank you. I'm not sure about that, but we had fun. That was the main thing. It was a lot of fun. So thank you for coming on.
So if you watching have any questions, do not go away with them. Ask them. Jamie is your man. He will be able to answer. If you've got any questions about starting up, is there something that's stopping you from getting started? Do you need a little bit of a tweak in the right direction? Just ask in the comments, and I can ask Jamie. And also in the comments, let us know where you are listening from today. We had such a diverse spread over the weekend. I would love to know where you are today. But coming into today, Jamie, let's get now. I don't know, actually. I said you started off with Rent to Rent, but you may have started with something else and got into Rent to Rent later. So tell us how did it go with you getting started in property?
Okay, well, thanks, Stephanie. Great question. So yeah, I started off by being an accidental landlord like 1 billion years ago. I had one property that I used to live in. Then we moved to a different part of the country and rented out my first house. And I didn't know anything about property at all, apart from obviously Sarah being on TV, which is obviously aging me a bit now. But all those property shows made everyone look so, millionaires overnight, and it was so easy. On the back of that, I bought a couple of off-plan flats up north, one in Sheffield, one in Nottingham, and one in Leeds. Again, had no idea what I was doing. Massive property mistake, because I bought when the market was up here. They weren't worth what I paid for them, but I didn't know any better. And they've been rented out ever since, but they haven't gone up in value at all. And then I did some property education, and I started buying single lets. So I had a very small money behind me, and I bought some single lets, and then raised some finance from other people and bought a few more. But quite frankly, to try and replace a sort of corporate income when you're making 200 quid a month profit from your buy to let up north, this was, by the way, was going to take a long time. So that's when I switched into a rent to rent, or some people call it rent to HMO, and that was the absolute game changer for me.
Wow. Well, I've got 2 questions, because it just feels like there's an epiphany when you find out that there are these ways of making money from property without buying it. So there you were saving up, biggish deposits, even if it's up north, saving up for years maybe, and then buying somewhere, making £200 a month. How did you go from there to realizing you could make more money with a much lower investment?
I'd heard about rent to rent, but didn't know much about it. So I did a sort of 1-day property course where they gave you all the glossy stuff and not much of the reality behind it. But it gave me enough information to not only spark the interest, but also give me the encouragement to go and start. So I partnered up with a guy called Steve Mitchell. This was end of 2013. We're good friends, we're business partners, and we've been doing this ever since with HMOs and rent to rent HMOs. And we looked in our local area, and for us it was Bedford, Steve lives 15 minutes away from Bedford. And even though we had the knowledge and I had the enthusiasm, definitely, Steve's very cautious. I didn't really believe it. And it was only within 6 months when we got our first deal and started getting some money through, having sort of tried to find a letting agent, in this case, to work with, where we proved to ourselves we could do it. And it was more of a mindset and belief thing then, because we're getting money every single month from a property we didn't own, we simply controlled. And it wasn't bad. It was double what I was getting at least from my single lets that I bought up in up north. But that's when we really started getting some confidence. And we really went for it. We had quite a few properties in the first year on the back of that, but the first one was definitely harder. And I think it was an element of self-belief. We can actually do this thing, and the strategy actually would work. But once we proved that, we were off and running. So that's how it happened, Stephanie.
I love it. You found out about it. You got right in there. You jumped in. And while I've got the mic, I'm just going to actually say hello. We had a couple more people greet us. Anne-Marie and Amin, and I think it must be Nikki, who's also watching. So, Jamie, you've talked about that very beginning, and you touched on something which I know that people really worry about. How to get the deals from the letting agents. Why would they give it to some random?
Yeah.
So,
random, in my case, bloke that looks like this. I mean, who would you trust his face? I don't know. But,
yeah, you would.
It's really tough. I mean, I'd love to know. I can't wait for your book to come out, by the way, because you're going to share lots of your experiences too. And I only wish I had a book like Rent to Rent Success back in 2014. It would have made life a lot easier. But there we go. So yeah. Coming back to your question, Stephanie, it was about an element of confidence. Steve's the guy in my business partner behind the scenes. He likes the numbers and the details and that sort of stuff. I like the people side of things. And I knew that was more of my strength rather than Steve's. So I was tasked with going in there, speaking to letting agents, and trying to get the proposition across of what this whole thing about rent to rent is. And it wasn't too bad. I got lots of interest. But when they said, what track record have you got or what experience have you got? Of course, I had absolutely zero. So because it took me a couple of months to get the first property and I was getting quite a few knockbacks, I started pivoting or changing my questions. And so rather than saying, I'm Jamie, we have this business, this is what we do, I then went in there to say, I'm Jamie, I'm interested in working with you. How can we possibly work together? What is it you need from us? And I changed to that tack. And when it was more me asking them how I could help them, I got a bit more interest, a bit more engagement, and then we got a great first deal from a lady called Jane, who's a local independent letting agency. She didn't know anything about us, but she quite liked us, and she understood when I changed my tact of speaking to her about how could we help her. That's when we got the first property and we've now got almost 3/4 of our portfolio from Jane. But she tested us out in 2014 with one property to see if we could do what we said we were going to do.
That is a phenomenal story. I love it so much. But what I really love is that tidbit in there, and I'm going to repeat it in case people have missed it. It's always about, people always want to work with you when you give them what they want. And that is golden there, just to actually ask them, how can I help you? Or what is it that you need? This is what we're doing. How can we help you? How could you work together? So phenomenal. And then Jane was the clever one and said yes. And let me say hello to Jennifer, hello to Malay, hello to Jade, who said, I like Jade. She says, been catching up with the previous videos and absolutely love them. We've got Deborah with us, and we've got Jennifer who's saying that was a golden nugget. So there's going to be plenty more in this. So I want to ask you about the other thing, because as you know, Jamie, it can seem so far away when people are watching now to when you were starting in 2013 and you didn't have the confidence. So can you remember back that far? What were your fears?
I can't remember yesterday, let alone 2014.
What were your fears, and how did you get over them? Because that might give a few tips to people.
Yeah, great question. So I think one of the key things that stands out, or I can remember that stands out, is that I've always been very conscious that I don't want to pretend I'm something that I'm not. So when speaking to agents for the first time, and especially landlords as well, I was always very transparent to say, we haven't got any experience today. We've never done this before. However, this is what we'd like to do, and this is how we would like to work with you. Would that work for you? That was always my approach. And from a mindset point of view, I think that really helped, because I wasn't pretending to be something I wasn't. I didn't have some glossy brochure which said I had, lots of properties under my belt, pretending that I did when I didn't. I was very, very transparent about that. And I think people buy into that honesty because I think it gives you massive integrity. There are many people who have not really understood rent to rent properly and trying to pretend they're something they're not, or maybe given their letting agents or landlords over time a bad experience. And this is where it's important to work with people like you and Nikki to learn how to do it the right way, the ethical way, because I think that way your reputation can be destroyed in seconds if you literally don't follow through with what you say you're going to do. And that was the biggest learning from me, which was trying to be completely transparent. Say, if you haven't done the experience before, don't worry. You've got X, Y, and Z. You've set your company up the right way. You've got, you're a member of a property redress scheme, for example, and you've got all sorts of insurances in place. Those things alone give you a bit of extra credibility. So that's what we did. But it was all very well and good, Stephanie, me saying that at that time and believing it. I still had to get the first deal. And as soon as we got the first deal, we started making some money. Again, that's where our belief in ourselves was really cemented. And again, we went on from there. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I love that because that is something people think they're not enough. I mean, not just in the sphere of rent to rent, but that's one of the human traits is that we often will criticize ourselves and think we're not enough, whether it's rent to rent or whatever it is, especially when it's a new thing. And I love the honesty because I can see in you, as you're speaking, I can see why they would totally trust you. I could see why they would totally feel that you were going to, but maybe you wouldn't have been able to see that in yourself at the time. So it's a process of just keep taking the action. The belief comes in. The belief comes in through repetition and also through success. So when you started and you got over. But people do give up though, don't they, Jamie, before they get to the success. How long did it take you? Can you remember to get that very first one?
Yeah, it took us 2 months to get a proper conversation going with, in this case, Jane, the letting agent, and then her client, the landlord. And then the landlord's a lovely guy. He's a much older Indian guy. He went off to India for 3 months. So we're trying to negotiate our first deal. And of course, then he went back to see his family for 3 months, then came back, and then we finally agreed a deal. So it took a hell of a lot longer than we thought it was going to do. But we got there in the end. And we've been working with Mr. Bat now since, again, 2014. We've got, we're still looking after his house. We started off with a 3-year contract. And again, very transparent about our lack of experience up until then. And then we had regular reviews with him. We kept him informed about what he was doing and what we were doing for his property. And he's then renewed the contract on the back of that. So that's some of the things that we did. Don't get me wrong, we had loads and loads and loads of knockbacks. We had loads of agents saying to us, that's subletting, or we don't do that. We had all that. But I think you're absolutely right, Stephanie. It's about that belief that is to stand up for the service you want to offer a letting agent or a landlord and keep going. Whatever you do, keep going. You'll get a yes eventually. And some people within weeks, some people like me took a bit longer. But keep going is the key thing here.
Yeah. So actually, although you were having the conversation from 2 months in, it went on to 5 or 6 months till you actually could sign. I think that can be not typical, but it can take a while between when you first sort of verbally agree, yes, this could work, to actually signing the paperwork can sometimes take a little while. So let's talk about, so that we've talked a bit about the beginning and getting over those fears and getting started and making it work and keeping going, and then achieving that success. But since then, you've done phenomenal things. This is going all the way back to 2013, as he said, so nearly 8 years ago. Paint the picture of how it's helped you to get to where you are today.
Okay, great question. So the key thing for us was to try and replace our incomes fast through property without spending a lot of money. We spent a lot of time in the first 6 months to a year, actually no more than that, probably more like 14 months. We spent a lot of time in this strategy, Steve and me being very hands-on first, because we got the income up. And once we got the income coming through, and you'll know this, and Nikki will know this, and everyone else listening or watching this who've done this before realizes that getting the properties is the first step. Then to make the money, you've got to look after the people who are living there, of course. So that was a whole new, eyes wide open moment. We had to then run and manage the property business. So it did take us a while. And again, the benefit of hindsight's a wonderful thing. We should have systemized sooner, but we didn't. We should have brought people in to help us run our business, but we didn't. But we got there eventually. So now, for example, and this is bringing me right forward now, the income we make from our rent-to-rent HMO portfolio, and we started off in Bedford, but we've now actually also moved to a second area now up in Northampton, has meant that not only do we replace and get a good income from that, but it also means we've got savings pots of cash, spare profit, which we then put in to go and buy houses too. So that was the real game changer for me, because I was always looking to not only get the income, but also build my asset wealth in property over the medium to long term. So we've now bought lots of HMOs as well, some with our own money, but the vast majority are actually with other people's money. So in the same way we're building up our rent-to-rent business with other people's houses, we've now been able to buy and convert properties to HMO with other people's money. So that was a bit of a game changer for us too. It took us a while, but we got there eventually.
I really like that. It's all about that leverage in both instances. So originally you were using very little leverage and buying your single lets, putting all that money in and then getting a very small amount of money out. And then you reduced the money you put in, got more money out. And then now you've done it again in attracting the investors. Now, I know that people are super, super interested because everyone runs out of money, even if they start off with millions, when it comes to property investing. And most of us are not starting off with millions.
Yes.
So I would love to know your insights into raising investors and HMO investing with other people's money.
Yeah, okay. Again, this comes back to mindset, actually, ironically, Stephanie. Many people have, and myself included, I think it's going to be difficult to raise money, thinking, why on earth would someone lend me money to go and buy a house? What's all that about? And I think mindset is a massive thing here, because the reality is, if you come back to the starting point of rent to rent and what we were talking about providing a service and how you can help other people, exactly the same mindset and approach goes into investors with money. So the majority of people who have money put aside in a bank account, for example, or an ISA, or whatever it might be, are not making much of a return on that money. And they're looking to provide for themselves and maybe their families. They want to build their retirement pot, but they can't really do that if it's only earning 1 or 2%, maybe 3% a year. So if you come at raising investor finance from that approach too, which is you can help other people make a better return on their money, and all they're doing is partnering up with you, using your knowledge and experience and maybe your power team of people around you, and they can get a better return. But why wouldn't they do it? And you'll get loads of people who say yes, they'd love to do it, and you'll get some people say no, they're not interested, and that's cool. But I would strongly recommend that anybody watching and listening to this, if they haven't raised money before, does a couple of things. One, think about how you can help other people by giving them a better return than they're currently getting. Because if they want to do property, they'd be doing it themselves. So if they haven't done it before, they probably haven't got the knowledge or the experience, and therefore they need your help. So it's putting up you as a similar level, an equal level to their money. So they can do it with you, but they can't do it without you. So again, it's sharing that success and reward from borrowing their money. The second thing I would do is, this is a whole regulated area, right? So again, I won't go into the details, but you can only borrow money from other people if you do it the right and ethical and legal way. So just check out have a chat to Stephanie and Nikki about that. But maybe go also onto the FCA website to find out the do's and don'ts of raising money from other people. So you've got to do it the right way, and there are things you need to be aware of there. And the third thing is, quite rightly, whatever you do, always keep trying to raise money. So tell people what you do. Find out if they're interested in working with you. Get those conversations going regularly. And then once you borrow money from somebody, whatever you do, I know it's obvious, but please don't do this wrong. Pay them back when you said you're going to pay it, at the rate you said you're going to pay it, because the reality is, if you do that, they're probably going to come back to you time and time and time again. So you don't have to have as many conversations about, can I borrow some money, please, from different people? Because you'll have what I call like an investor bank of people who will keep, hopefully lending you money if you are giving them the returns that you've promised them. Does that help?
Absolutely. And what I like about that, Jamie, is the same theme has come out again. When you show people how you can help them, when you basically speak the language of opportunity. So in the first instance, you were demonstrating the opportunity for the letting agent to make money and not do the work that they would normally be doing. And in this case, you're showing the opportunity to the investor to be able to make money while doing nothing at all. Instead of just having it in the bank, they can double or quadruple or more what they would have been getting in an investment with you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about putting yourself in their shoes and helping them make a decision if it's right for them, so they can see the benefits they get.
Yeah. And Nicole's just saying, so insightful. Thank you, Jamie. Totally agree. So you're now building up your own portfolio. Let's talk a little bit about what happened last year. There was a little thing went on, Jamie. Did you notice?
Why do you think I've got a bit stir crazy for the last 9-12 months? It's sitting in this room by myself for far too long.
So how did Corona affect your various businesses, Jamie?
In a massive way. So you mentioned earlier, Stephanie, very kindly when you were introducing me that I run a podcast called the Hmo Experience Podcast, and I'm joined by two of my friends and business partners on there, Steve and Matt Harris too. And when the first lockdown happened and COVID obviously hit, we were doing daily Facebook Lives for about 8 weeks, literally going through, we think this is happening or going to happen in our business. Let's talk through our actual experiences. So it was a bit of therapy for us all, as well as a bit of a sounding board, because we were all new to this. We had no idea what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So the impact on our business was, number one, we really doubled down on looking after our current customers. So we communicated with them a hell of a lot more. We've always had WhatsApp groups, so one WhatsApp group per rent-to-rent HMO house, and we were making sure that we were communicating with them every week, just to check in with them, to make sure that they were well, and how they were doing financially. We had a few of our customers who were struggling with anxiety, the fear of losing a job, for example. So we were communicating a hell of a lot more, because we much prefer to try and look after them if we can, and agree a way that they can stay in the house, of course, but not having to worry about money if they can't afford to pay the rent. So we agreed a few payment plans, for example, on the back of having those conversations. The second thing we really focused on, and again, it's only through the benefit of hindsight now, after the third lockdown, is we really focused on building a little community in the houses.
Yeah.
So we send in, food regularly, say, have a pizza night or have a curry night or whatever it is on us. We send in board games, go have a games night on us. Try to get everyone to communicate and chat a bit more. Because we found prior to COVID, though we've got working people, professionals in our houses, some were better at mixing than others, and some definitely felt a bit more isolated. So trying to encourage that community. And the third thing we learned, Stephanie, was obviously looking after them from a health and safety point of view. So more regular inspections and cleaning when we can go in there and clean. But if it was full lockdown, like it was, I think it was April or May to early July, we couldn't go into the houses. So we'd actually deliver more cleaning materials for them to go and do the house cleaning for us, and make it worth their while. So we learned a lot. So yeah, it had a massive impact. We of course had more voids. We had more empty rooms because some of our customers, we've got people who work in Bedford and Northampton now, who live in Europe. So some of the Europeans went back to their own countries because they were worried about getting stranded here, quite rightly. So we did have more rooms available than beforehand. And again, that was an issue that had an impact on our bottom line. So a couple of things that we've always talked about, Steve and I, and done, and thankfully we have. I think you and I spoke about this on our podcast pre-Christmas. We've always saved some money from our rent-to-rent income every month and put it into a savings account. We've also, in the last 4 or 5 years, got rent guarantee insurance for all of our tenants or our customers, so that if, for example, they can't afford to pay, or they they go back to wherever they move, they leave the house without paying their rent or have any damage, the insurance company pays out. But the second thing is that slush fund of extra money that we've saved diligently over the years, that absolutely saved our rent-to-rent business definitely last year. That helped to plug the gaps in our income. So yeah, it was a tumultuous year last year.
Yes.
You guys, how were you affected by it?
It was a tumultuous year, very similarly, but I want to keep the focus on you because I talk about myself quite a bit. But I just want to highlight a couple of things for people here. First of all, yes, the Hmo Experience Podcast. I love going on to listen because you guys have got a different perspective. And also, you're very funny together, the three of you.
I'm not sure it's intentional, though. I think people laugh at us rather than...
No, I don't think so. And also, you alluded to, or you mentioned it there, there's a Facebook group, the Hmo Experience Facebook group as well, that people can catch up. If you've been enjoying this with Jamie today, do go and join them over there. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is the financial management. When you're just starting off, you only have to think about getting your first deal, managing one property. So you don't need to think about the sort of... having structures in place that you need once you get bigger. But it is important to notice that as you grow and as you get your properties on board. And the other thing that I'm curious about personally, because I had sort of dismissed the idea, is the insurance, because I had assumed that the type of insurance that you could get for HMO tenants would be the type of insurance that's not actually worthwhile in terms of being able to actually claim against it. So I'd always sort of dismissed that. But you do it. So what's your experience been?
Oh, we've had some good experiences and some bad. So we've been doing this now, I think insurance from about 2015, middle of 2015, so quite a few years now. And we've had, from my point of view now, it's money well spent. So from a financial management point of view, and this is definitely not my idea, it was Steve, my business partner. Steve came from a sort of credit risk, doom and gloom corporate background. How do you plan for things that could go wrong? And thank goodness he did, because that really has helped our business ever since. But from day one, he would always put 8% of our gross income from our rent-to-rent HMOs into a savings account and forget about it, because that could then cover us for voids or any unforeseen costs. But the rent guarantee insurance, we've had a number of providers that we've used over the years, and it's been worth its weight in gold. So you can either decide to get a deposit, which is cool, up to 5 weeks worth of rent for your customers to pay you, or you can get rent guarantee insurance. And we've always gone down the rent guarantee insurance once only if they pass the reference checks, because it means that your insurance policy covers their room for 12 months. And it means you can get up to £50,000 worth of legal cover. So if they miss the rent for more than 1 month, for example, or they cause damage, or they disappear and don't pay, then you've got a policy that pays you out. And we've had some really positive experiences where we've been paid within 14 days, typically, the lost rent. And obviously then all the legal issues about chasing people or evicting people is also covered by the rent guarantee insurance policies that we take out. So I would definitely recommend anybody thinking about this, check out a couple of websites. I'll give you the one we use if you want. But there are lots of policies out there. Check the small print. The small print is key. They might say they don't do it now because of COVID-19, for example, or they might have made the policy more expensive or made the payouts less. So definitely check the small print. But the company we use, Stephanie, and hopefully this helps you or maybe people listening and watching, is Advanced Rent. I think the website's .co.uk at the end. Advanced Rent.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that. Another nugget. And I do encourage you all to go and join Jamie and crew over at the HMO Experience Facebook group and listening to the podcast. But let me turn now to the comments. Andrea's saying that she's finding this very useful and that she's just new to HMOs. So it's super, super good. We have Yemi, who's listening to us from Malawi. Atlanta was on with us yesterday, that this is very interesting. Great tips. Absolutely loving this. People like you, Jamie.
I think it's you, Stephanie.
Let me ask you something, Jamie. Have you done much over the Clubhouse? The
Yes, I
new
have.
kid on the block?
I've
Have
been
you?
on the Clubhouse a lot.
Do you like it?
Yeah, I do. I really like the immediacy of it. I like it's a conversation. I've definitely got a face for radio or for speaking, not for videos normally. So I like that bit too. But there's also, it's not recorded, so you're a live dialogue. I really love it, and people are on there asking loads of questions. You're giving out as much as you can, tips and suggestions. I'm learning from amazing people who've got way more property experience than me. Multi-billionaires with huge portfolios, mindset, business owners. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Well, let me ask the viewers a question. If we were to do a Clubhouse like this, I don't know if you viewing know about Clubhouse, would you come to it? Let us know in the comments. Would you be interested if we did a Clubhouse all about rent to rent, getting started, and insights like this? Now, I'm looking at my questions because I think before we draw to a close, it would be nice to answer some of the questions that we've got here, Jamie. So Nicole is asking, where did you find the majority of your investors, Jamie?
Nicole, great question. So initially, it was people I already knew. So friends or family or business acquaintances. I just told everybody what I was doing and asked them if they knew anybody else who might be interested in working with me on an investor point of view. So that's how I started. Now it's a bit more strategic. So I now go out, I have a proper investor pack. I tell everyone what I do on social media, but I also go out to websites like LinkedIn and make it very clear that I'm there because I'm a property investor and developer, and I give people fixed returns on their cash. And that's a nice steady stream, Nicole, of people who are interested in finding out more. So give that
Great. And Jennifer says, does the premium go up when you claim? I'm guessing that'll be the rent guarantee insurance.
Yes, it can do, Jennifer. Having said that, the premium, we haven't paid more premiums this year than previous years, but let's see what happens in the future. It might go up. Like all insurance companies, quite often the premium does go up. But I still think it's money well worth spent because it protects you for so much more of the downside potentially of them not paying you for rent.
Great. And Deborah's saying that she loves the idea of Clubhouse. Carol's saying absolutely would come to the Clubhouse. And Stuart would like to get invited.
I've got an invite, Stuart, you can have.
Yes, great. Well, maybe that's something we can talk about. I've enjoyed our chat again, Jamie. I found it very useful as well and insightful. So as we draw to a close, Jamie, we talked about getting started and getting over the fears and getting your first deal, and the strand that's run through all this, which is looking about how you can help other people. As we draw to a close, is there anything that I've not asked you about that you would like to let people know?
All I would say is, and Stephanie, thank you for having me on here. It's been a pleasure as always. Get the knowledge around you and get the people around you who can help you. So Stephanie and Nikki, for example, perfect people to start with and really cement your knowledge and understanding. But I'd also say this, try and differentiate what you do in your rent-to-rent business from other people around you. So how can you be different or better? Can you provide better quality rooms? And quality doesn't need to be more expensive, but they look nicer, for example. Can you provide better customer service? Because the more things you can do which are different to your competitors around you, the more likelihood you'll get of customers who will stay with you for longer, which gives you certainty of income over the longer term. So I think about how you can be different, because that's a very powerful thing. So hopefully that helps too.
Brilliant. And we've had another question as you've been speaking, Jamie. Carol would like to know, are you on Instagram?
Yes, I am, Carol. Thanks for asking. Jamie Madill Property.
I will just type it into I'm not very good at multitasking, but let's see if I can do it. So there we go. Jamie Madill Property, I've added to the comments. So hopefully you can see that. And I'm also at Stephanie T Property. If we're not already, it's not called Friends. Oh gosh, I'm sounding so ancient here. It's like, you're going wrong when you're talking about the YouTube or the Facebook, but
Or the clubhouse.
All right, Jamie. Well, thank you so much for joining and telling us about your Rent to Rent Rocket story and giving us so many insight and golden nuggets. As we've already explained, you can find Jamie at the Hmo Experience Podcast and also at the Hmo Experience Facebook group. Jamie, what are your final words of inspiration for people who are wanting to either get started or grow their Rent to Rent business?
I think the final thing I'd say, Stephanie, is to everybody listening and watching this, you can definitely do this. Don't forget, Stephanie, Nikki, myself, and Steve, we started with zero experience whatsoever. Everybody that Stephanie's had on in her Rent to Rent Rocket Live series started off with no experience whatsoever. So you can do this too. But you've now got the opportunity to surround yourself with people who know what they're talking about. So again, get Stephanie and Nikki's book. That's a great start. Connect with more people on whichever social media platform it is and ask questions. And you can definitely do this.
Brilliant. That is a great way to end the show. Well, thank you for watching and being such an incredible audience. We've had some great questions, and I want to say I will be back again tomorrow. And tomorrow we have Lucy Ingram from Ride Property. That will be a phenomenal show. 0 to 8 rent-to-rent HMOs, all within 2020, the year of coronavirus. So that is going to be phenomenal. They're now going on to do developments and all sorts. So I think you're going to really enjoy that. And remember, we are counting down to the book launch, which is on Friday, the 29th of January. This Friday, we can't believe it, but it's happening. And if you want to join the VIP list for the special pre-launch, then go to renttorentbook.com. I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for today. Bye for now. And thank you, Jamie, for offering us a great value today. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.